If you should happen to visit a railway that has a lake in the woods and beautiful waterfalls, then you will find two little engines named Skarloey and Rheneas. They're pretty much old engines, and everybody knows them very well. There are two more engines, Sir Handel and Peter Sam. They used to be called Spoilers! Beep. But they like their new names better. Hey everyone, this is Sakura Diesel here. Welcome back to the Really Useful Podcast. And of course, I'm also here with my good friend and host of the show,
OT Bot 7. Hey everybody, welcome to episode 11 of the Really Useful Podcast, and today we got a very exciting book for you all.
Yes, we definitely have a very exciting book as well. So we have today's book. Today's book is actually going to be a little bit special because it's the first book. Basically, we're going to go on to a brand new, different railway.
We're going to be visiting the Skarloey Railway for the first time.
Yep, the Skarloey Railway, based on a real-life railway in Wales called the Talyllyn Railway.
Yep. And actually, this is where the story begins, in terms of the backstory. Actually, Wilbur, actually need to go all the way back to 51.
Yes.
The railway was in its last legs, and they were about to close, but in the end, they purchased the railway for preservation, and the Talyllyn Railway became the very first railway run by just volunteers.
And if you guys remember, back in season 1 on Toby the Tram Engine, originally Wilbur and his family were planning on going to Talyllyn and such, but it was his wife Margaret that basically made plans for her and her family to go down to the railway, in which gave the inspiration for Toby and such.
Yes. And if that holiday wasn't booked, it's possible Toby might not have been created. But you know,
yeah, not only that, but yeah, in an alternate timeline, if just like what Bonnie said, if Wilbur and his family never went to Toby's railway, then it's very possible we would have saw the Skarloey Railway very early on and everything. Was definitely one that made you wonder about what kind of stories. Basically, what kind of stories, what Wilbur do to introduce the Skarloey Railway? Basically, if they had gone to the Talyllyn Railway a lot earlier than what they had tended to do.
Yeah, and I read on the Thomas Tank Engine that Wilbur was very disappointed that he wasn't able to go to the Talyllyn on the very year that it became a volunteer operated railway.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, actually, correct me if I'm wrong, but basically, didn't Wilbur and his family, would go, probably not every year, but usually, basically almost yearly, at least, whenever they got around to do,
Actually, no, I'm glad you brought that up, because I was reading about that before we started recording. Mm-hmm. The first time they went was in 52, and that's where, when Wilbur volunteered in 52, that's where the inspiration for Peter Sam and the Refreshment Lady came from.
Yes, yes. Which to be honest, I can't wait till we get that little detail once we get to Peter Sam and the Refreshment Lady.
Because the incident is way different than what happened to Peter Sam.
Pretty much.
Yeah. In 53, they weren't able to go because Wilbur had some problems with parish work. Remember, people don't forget he was also a clergyman. People forget that most of the time. And I believe he did not return until 1965 when the Talyllyn Railway celebrated its 100th birthday. He retired from parish work in 65, and that's when he went to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the Talyllyn Railway.
Oh, nice.
Yes. And basically, yeah, at the time the book was being written, the railway had 4 engines, which were Talyllyn, Dolgach, Sir Hayden, and Edward Thomas.
Yes, and basically out of those 4 engines, by the time this book was published and anything, number 2, Dolgach, aka Rheneas' twin, basically was at the overhaul being mended and such.
Yes, he was sent to be overhauled, and Talyllyn was only to be steamed in emergencies, which we're going to be seeing that in the stories, but in a different way.
Pretty much, yes.
So, I know this is a very special book for you, man. So,
yes,
before we get started, I want to say,
go ahead, you first.
how did you want into this book? How did you want it? Let me correct that. How what was your? I can't say it. I can't speak today.
Like basically, what were my expectations going into these stories or something? Or
Yes,
all right,
yes.
so basically, again, those that probably know me, for a while since I've been doing Thomas reviews, and even to those that probably don't know me all too well, basically as a kid, I loved the Skarloey Railway as a kid and everything. The Skarloey Railway was basically the Skarloey Railway was basically, again, like I said, my favorite railway out of the whole show and everything. And I basically look forward to whenever they had episodes to themselves in the show and everything, and basically learning that the Skarloey Railways were also based on the books and everything too from the Railway series. I was to be honest, I was really excited to get to their books as well too. When pretty much everything up until this point, the Four Little Engines, when you think about it, is actually the very first story where you do get to notice lots of changes between the source material and what the TV series basically did when it came to adapt them and everything. Because this is actually the very first book where basically all the stories we're already entering into season 4 territory with these Skarloey books and everything, which made a lot of sense and everything. Basically, I can understand why Britt and David wanted to wait a very long time until they were actually finally ready to adapt these books and everything. Because basically, with
Yeah,
the budget they had with
the tech, because the technology just wasn't there. Because remember, season 4, they were small. They were like very small engines, and they were a nightmare to control, according to some behind the scenes.
Yes, they were. They were definitely a very nightmarish to basically work with. Basically, when it was finally time for them to make models of them, even with the budget they did had, they still had a lot of technical flaws to work with. So I would hate, basically, I would both hate, but also be very interested to see what would have happened if basically Britt and David decided to take a risk and actually made models of the Skarloey Railway and everything. I would actually kind of love to see just how much more of a nightmare basically how much more of a nightmare it would be for both Britt and David to try to work those damn engines and everything.
Yes, and they got so fed up with them in season 4 that for season 5 they were like, "Fuck this! Let's build large scale model versions of them."
Pretty much, pretty much. Those were the same model versions that basically stuck around until the model series came to an end.
Another thing you've been noticing, for the ones that don't know the Railway series, and if you don't, why the hell are you watching this? One thing that you may have noticed is that you may have noticed in the picture we have on front that Peter Sam is painted red, and you're going to be saying, "Hang on a minute, isn't Peter Sam supposed to be painted green?" Well, on the books, this is very different. They're all painted in the same color to show that they're working on the same railway.
Yes, kind of the same thing as how it was in the Tally Flynn Railway, where basically most of the answers were kind of dark green as well, to basically show that yes, they are working in the Tally Flynn Railway and everything.
Yeah, it's not like that anymore. Now they're painted in various colors, because
TV
society
show and
changes and everything like that.
Which actually I think it was both a very smart move and also a creative move, for basically Britt and David to make the little engines into different colors and everything, because definitely from a marketing standpoint, it'll basically make both parents and grandparents basically their lives much more easier to get basically to get their kids a certain Skarloey engine they want for Christmas, and they don't have to worry about checking the names just to make sure it's the engine they wanted and everything. And
so I think that's it for the history portion. So shall we get into the stories?
Sure thing. Let's get into the stories right now. So right now you're going first with the very first story of Four Little Engines, and that is Skarloey Remembers.
Okay, Skarloey Remembers. Okay, so Skarloey Remembers. We start off at where Old Iron left off, where Edward is sent to the works to be mended, and while he's waiting to be mended, he sees Skarloey, which is an engine he remembers from the old days. And as the workmen cannot mend Edward quickly, they decide Edward asks to put him next to Skarloey. And basically, Skarloey tells him the story of the Skarloey Railway, on how he and Rhaenyra used to work the line, and everything, and how he has some coaches named Agnes, Lucy, Jemima, and Beatrice, and basically some old friends he has on the line and all that stuff. It's basically a simple story to get us introduced to the.
Basically, Skarloey tells Edward his midlife crisis.
Well, technically, yeah.
Technically, yeah, because as Skarloey said himself, basically by that point, in the story and the timeline and everything, like I said, basically like we and he said, Skarloey's getting to be a very old engine and everything, and because of that, the owner just said that the owner just basically gave him a shed and everything, just so they
He
could try
couldn't
to
be
cheer up
older.
Skarloey, seeing that
Actually, this is something I did not know until the Unlucky Tug talked about it in his Skarloey Sodor's Finest.
Mm-hmm.
In the early days when Neil, if you guys don't know who Neil is, we'll talk about it when we get to season 3. When
Yes.
Neil was away for repairs, actually they put Skarloey on a gauge converter wagon to make him standard gauge, and basically he had to use a lot of his strength to pull those heavy trucks, and basically that left him worn out, and he was only to be steamed only in emergencies. So Skarloey Remembers is kind of a short story. It's not too long, and it's kind of simple. Basically, it's a story to introduce us to the Skarloey Railway. Basically, I can see why a few people can find the story a little bit dragging, because this story is basically just information, not something humoristic happening. Well,
Pretty,
kind of, because sort of in the humoristic, because there's a point where they say we'll leave you behind one of these days, Mrs. Last, but that's only briefly.
Basically, there's that, and there's also the scene where basically, Scarlo, telling Agnes to stop being such a jerk and everything to their friends and
Yeah,
everything. Some people could also find some humor in that as well. Actually, there's also one moment I also found to be both funny and cute. Is that basically Scarloey telling Edward that he knows the real reason why children
Waving to him.
wave whenever the train passes by and such. I found I did find that moment to be very cute and funny.
Yeah, man, because Skarloey's if not, he's the oldest engine on Sodor. The oldest.
He is.
And well, it's
I was actually I just realized both Skarloey and Tally Flynn they were both built at the same time that the American Civil War was just about coming to an end. Actually, when you think about it,
yeah, they were built in 1864 around that time.
What's 64 or 65? Because
I think it's 64. 64.
64. Okay. Then they probably started working on the railway at 65. Then.
Yeah, because they were built in 1864. Both of them, Skarloey and Tally Flynn. Tally Flynn was sent to the Tally Flynn Railway in Wales, and Skarloey was sent to Sodor, pretty much.
Pretty much. Which again, we'll explore more on that once we get to season 3.
Which means that he's going to be turning 160 next year.
Yeah. Yes, actually, that's right.
Wow.
I know. That's a very old engine. It's very surprising that he's still running to this day and such.
I know, right? Kind of surprising, but
Yeah,
we haven't heard about what's happening on Sodor since 2011. So
pretty much.
in terms of the Railway series canon, not the TV series,
Yeah.
But yeah, going back to Skarloey Remembers, I can see some people getting a little bit bored of this story, but for me, I think this is a great story, honestly. Yes, it's more info than, entertainment, but I don't mind. And this story is what four little episodes, listen to me.
I mean, when you think about it, I mean, it's not really a total lie. Four Little Engines has basically Four Little Engines has 4 little stories, and they'll each be turned into technically 3 little episodes.
I was gonna say this is what four little engines should have been, the TV episode. Wow, it's a great story, honestly. I really love that we get to know Skarloey's line, and and to get to know a little bit of his character. He's very smart, a smart ass character, and he takes no nonsense from anybody. And I think that's it, because it's kind of a short story, honestly. We get to see Skarloey's character. We get to know about Skarloey and his little railway, and about how he and Reneas used to work the line and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Also, let's get this out of the way right now and everything. Basically, I'm sure this is pretty much going to be question on everybody's mind, especially how both Johnny Morris and really Russian say this and everything. But
Oh yes.
basically, how do you pronounce Rheneas? Rheneas or Rhenius?
Oh, that's an ongoing debate that I've been hearing about. I honestly don't care how anybody pronounces it, as long as you say the name, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, pretty much same here. Because like I said, honestly, the first time I heard someone pronounce, Rhenius as Rhenius, pretty much
Rheneas.
Rhenius or whatever. Well, basically, regardless, the first time I heard, someone called Rhenius by a different name and everything. Actually, fun fact, it was not from the Railway series. It was actually from, I want to say it's the Thomas Wooden Railway channel on YouTube way back when. Way back when he used to do Wooden Thomas videos and everything.
Thomas Wooden Railway. Do you mean that YouTube? You mean that guy that does Thomas the Tank Engine and Thomas the Tank Engine Friends Wooden Railway Adventures?
I think that might either be him or it might be another different YouTuber. But regardless,
Skarloey Railway 01 or something.
it might no, not the Skarloey one. I can't quite remember the name and such. But for someone out there, they probably might know who I'm talking about. But basically, regardless, like when I first heard the name for the first time, I thought he was just saying Renee's Ron. But it wasn't until when we started listening to the audiobooks for these stories and everything. That's when I found out that
I believe.
Okay, so you can say Renee's name differently then.
Yeah, I believe it was Rushton that first started that trend of Reneas.
Technically, if you want to get technical here, Johnny Morris also calls Rheneas too.
Yes. I always thought Rushton was the one that started it, but no, apparently it was Morris that started it. And according to, I forgot his name. He works on the Taliban Railway nowadays. Luke something.
Yeah.
He works on the Taliban. He says that the correct way to pronounce Rheneas' name is Rheneas, like Rushton and Morris said it. But to make it easier, we're just gonna call him Rheneas, or the way we're used to saying it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Back to Skarloey Remembers, because we got way off track already. I don't know, guys. If you guys like when we go off track, just let us know in the comments.
To be fair, if you guys like it when we go off track and everything, then basically you're on the right train. Okay.
So for Skarloey Remembers, it's a good story, honestly. Like, yeah, I can see some people getting a little bit bored of it in some parts. And honestly, I do not like Morris's narration at all for this story.
Yeah. Honestly, do we want to get this? Actually, I guess we'll just go story by story and everything.
Let's go slowly.
Yeah.
Talking about the narration, we'll talk about Morris overall when we finish discussing the stories. Because
but yeah. I'll say this right here and right now and everything. To be honest, I really don't like the voice he gives for Skarloey and everything. It just sounds nothing like how, well, at least in my opinion, as such. It doesn't really sound like the way I would envision Skarloey to sound in the first place.
Yeah, me neither. It
kind of sounds like Morris was trying to find a right mix between old and young, and basically at the end result, he kind of made Skarloey sound younger than he probably should have been.
Yeah, he sounds a little bit like Percy in a sort of way. It sounds like Percy with a little bit of a Welsh accent. Yeah, and I don't like that at all. Yeah. I think his voice should be like, hold on, let me think of something. If your wheels aren't working, then you are being really useful. Like that.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like Keith Wickham did it. Man, Keith Wickham did an awesome job with the voice.
He did. He really did.
Well, yeah. For Skarloey Remembers, I'm gonna give it an 8. It's a great story.
Alrighty. Well, alright. Well, I don't have too much to add and everything, because it's basically like you said. It's a simple story. It's just basically a little introduction to basically what to expect from the Skarloey Railway, how they operate the railway and everything. And Skarloey basically giving, Edward his little, basically as the title says, him remembering, what he used to do in the old days and everything. Trying to teach, the coaches manners and everything. While basically also loving seeing, children, having a good time. Seeing him passing by on their school grounds and everything. and yeah, like as an introduction story goes, it's a good one, honestly. Like, definitely shows, basically captures the Skarloey Railway really good and such. And basically, I will say this, like, the illustrations on this story alone and everything really does a good job on capturing the Skarloey Railway and about how it's supposed to look like and such.
Yeah,
Uh,
I
uh,
will admit, I don't like how C. Reginald Dolby does the Skarloey engines. It makes them.
yeah. I was gonna say the same thing too. Like,
I
I
don't
turned.
like how he does them. They look so toy-like, and it's so toy-like it's not even funny.
It's both like toy-like and like there's also moments where it kind of seems like they're almost either bigger or at least like they're almost kind of the same size as like the standard gauge engines and such.
Yeah. To be fair, another illustrator that's gonna come along in this season actually
Hmm.
has the same problem, but we're gonna get to that book much later.
Pretty much and such.
But I can forgive it because it's difficult to draw proportions by hand.
Pretty much, yeah. And yeah. I was gonna say the same thing. I like looking at the engines, the way Dolby drew them and everything. Yeah, like even when looking at them, especially their faces and such, it just looks kind of off in some way.
I agree.
There are some moments where actually they do look pretty good and everything, but then there's also other moments where it's like it's basically as Bonnie said, like they do kind of feel like toy trains in a sort of way, and I kind of
Yeah,
don't know how to feel about that, to be honest.
especially since we're getting to the end.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
in
Well,
terms
well,
of
actually, the very next book will be the very last time we'll be able to talk about Dalby and everything. But we'll get to that story later.
we'll get to that book later because that's
Yeah,
when the tensions finally broke, and there's a reason why they actually broke.
yeah. There's a very good reason why Dalby and Wilbur basically got their divorce.
Yeah, and it's not only because of the Percy thing. We'll get to, which we'll talk about in the next book. It was something to do with location.
Basically, let's just say there was another engine that also like basically made Wilbur look at Dalby and be like, you know what? I should have done this ages ago, but you're fired.
Well, but I'll explain when we get to the next book because it's an interesting story as well.
It is. And going back to like what you were saying about how they should adapt this into the TV series and everything. In some ways, I think yes, they should adapt this into the TV series and everything. And the only way I can actually see that happening is if basically if they took the introduction from a bad day for Sir Handel, and basically made that into his own episode, and basically tie it in with like either with basically the actual episode for Little Engines, or maybe like or maybe just try to like see if somehow they could actually maybe make a two-parter where basically the introduction of Bad Day for Sir Handel is basically his own episode, and they sort of like foreshadow or at least set up the plot for a Bad Day of Sir Handel, and then basically Sir Handel's plot becomes his own part. I could probably
Hmm.
see how that could have happened and such. But at the same time, I can also understand why Britt and David figured that like maybe it would be best to like skip the story altogether, because like while it's a nice good introduction story and all that, in some ways like there's so many different scenes for them to work off with that I'm pretty sure like probably mostly with Britt and everything. I'm pretty sure Britt probably thought that the kids might have gotten either a little bored or maybe even confused in some ways.
Not to mention that there's a 4.5 minute runtime.
Pretty
So
much, yeah.
how are you gonna condense how are you gonna condense that much information in just 4 minutes and 30 seconds?
Pretty much, yeah.
And if it,
Actually, I think there's a way they could do it and everything, because like they weren't able to do it before, with like a couple of episodes from like season 1 and season 2. So I'm sure like maybe there could have been some way they could have do it and everything. But at the same time, like I said, I can understand why they probably wanted to skip it for now.
yeah, I get your point. I get your point.
But yeah,
But I will say that the TV episode that got the name after the book, it's got a horrible title. It should have been changed to Old Faithful.
I mean, yeah. Now that you said that and everything, yeah. I think they probably should have gone like, that episode probably should have gotten changed to like Old Faithful or something like that. Yeah. It definitely would have made a lot more sense because basically that episode titled "The Forlorn Lunches," we only really focus on like Skarloey and Sir Handel and everything. We don't really get to focus on the other two lunches all that much anyway. Alrighty, so as for me, I don't like I said, I don't have too much to say on the story
April
myself.
planning.
But basically, like you, I'm also gonna give the story an 8 because I can't really find any like flaws with the story to begin with and everything, and basically, yeah, that's all I really have to say. I think I'm gonna give this story an 8. It's a good story.
All right. So yeah, 8 for me, and how much for you?
8 as well. So we both gave the first story an 8.
Okay, so now on to the next and my favorite story of the book, Sir Handel.
No, was actually it's my turn. So let's go. Alrighty, so in this story, now we get introduced to the other two engines that the owner just bought, Sir Handel and Peter Sam. Basically they are they're kind of the exact opposites in terms of character and personality. Peter Sam is definitely more kind, definitely wise in some ways and everything. But he could get overexcited a little easily, which we're definitely going to which we'll definitely see that character trait in the very next story actually. Whereas with Sir Handel and everything, he is basically a rude little engine. He does not care about what you think and everything. Basically, if he has an opinion or if he has a rant, he will go off on his rant for as long as he wants. And basically, you see that right away in the beginning of the story where he criticizes both the Shed and Skarloey himself.
I found that line that he says, "What's that rubbish?" I basically start laughing at
Yeah, pretty
when I hear it.
much. Do we want to mention the little I guess not really elephant in the room and everything, but do we want to mention the little interesting backstory or at least like little hints on like
Yes,
where Sir
I'll
Handel
tell
and
it.
Peter Sam.
I'll tell it.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, so actually, Sir Handel behaving badly actually was invented by Wilbur because in real life, Sir Hayden, which is the basis for Sir Handel,
Uh huh.
actually his wheelbase was very short. It was not compatible with the Tallyfin Railway's wheel gauge, and so
Yes.
because he had an incompatible wheel range, he kept derailing. And so
Although
they got so fed up with the derailing that they decided, you know what, let's bring Tallyfin out.
pretty much, yeah. But actually, I was thinking about a different information, basically about like where Sir Handel and Peter Sam came from in the first place.
Oh
And
yes,
such. Yeah.
I'll tell. Well, they came from. Oh, spoilers. We can't. We'll get to that in season 3.
Basically, the reason why Sir Handel is upset, because basically he and Peter Sam got bought off, basically into this railway, but the friend basically did not just yet and such. Basically, I was also telling Bonnie this as well. Basically at the end of Edward the Blue Engine and everything. But it did make me wonder on like how far ahead was Wilbur planning on expanding the character of both Sir Handel and Peter Sam, or basically if this was just one of those things where like he basically had the idea written down, but either didn't expect to like expand upon it, or thought that like or thought that like this might be a one-off thing. And he probably wasn't going to expand it. But basically, as the story went along and everything, he wrote more. Basically, he wrote more books on Tallyflin Railway. That basically he was like, you know what? I'm actually going to turn this into a little arc of his own and such one day.
I would say he went with the latter because the seeds towards the big reveal aren't
Yeah,
planted until the next Skarloey Railway book we're going to be taking a look at.
pretty much after that, like the other big seasons even weren't planned until like the very next season, actually.
Yeah, and the next books we're going to get to in season 3.
Pretty much. All right, so going back to the story as well too. So basically, the very next day, Sir Handel has passenger duties, and he does not like the coaches that is being pulled. And likewise, just the coaches pretty much hate his guts. Probably would love to see him, or probably would love to see him derail off a mountain and such if they could. Um,
Yes.
and they would like if those coaches could actually get away with murder, they probably would have with Sir Handel. But yeah, it's kind of a shame we don't really get to see the coaches' personalities all that much in the TV series as well.
Yeah, basically in the TV series are just basically plot devices.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I mean, like the only time I really get to see them, like, sort of in their characters, and is basically in that episode we mentioned, Four Little Engines as well. But pretty much everything else is just kind of, it's like you said, it's kind of just like plot devices and such. Not really much characters. We're pretty much like in the Railway series, Wilbur really gave them like characters, and he really, I basically think that like he gave the characters down really good. And I especially love the dynamic between them and Sir Hannah. They make for a really funny dynamic.
Yes, I agree. I agree.
All right. So basically, as we continue on, this is where Sir Hannah also meets Gordon as well too, and pretty much like Sir Hannah left Gordon pretty speechless to a point where like, in a way, when you kind of think about it, Sir Hannah kind of sees Gordon as almost like a mentor,
And spoiler alert, we're gonna see that in the next Skarloey Railway book.
pretty much. And you know what? Even as a kid and everything, I really wish that like the TV series would have done more with those two characters and everything.
Yes,
Yeah.
and this will be a good topic to discuss right now.
Mm-hmm.
I hate in the hit era. I hated that Thomas and James were the only engines
Yeah,
that were
same.
able.
Yeah, same here. Basically, I was the same way too. When like the standard gauge engines finally started interacting with the narrow gauge engines, it was always Thomas and James, and even little Kimmy really got tired of that really fast. And
I
everything.
was annoyed, honestly. I was really annoyed.
Yeah,
Even with Thomas, and Thomas is my favorite character, but I still got annoyed because what if I wanted to see someone different like Percy or Gordon, for example.
yeah, pretty much. Like, can you imagine if, like, Gordon actually finally met Sir Hannah after all this time and learning that, like, Sir Hannah also became wise, just like Gordon as well, too. They probably could have done, like, a really good episode, with those two, everything. They probably could have done a lot to, like, expand their dynamic and such. Honestly, it was a really missed opportunity to, like, especially in the CGI era, like, it was really a missed opportunity for them to, like, try to do something with those two, just pretty much in a way that both Wilbert and to be fair, even Chris, I'm pretty sure even Chris knew that, like, those two engines actually work off of each other really well.
Yeah, yeah. Shame we didn't get stories with them.
Yeah,
But yeah, I hated that Thomas and James were the only two that were able to interact with
yeah,
them.
yeah.
But it
But
wasn't until we got older that we found out that it was due to budget reasons.
pretty much budget reasons, because like, much like with Jack in the Pack and everything, pretty much when Britt and David were trying to experiment on making, basically making the main characters a little bit more bigger. They basically found out that, like, it costs way too much money and everything. I'm basically just Thomas, Percy, and James alone and such. So basically they're just like, you know what? Let's only just use them whenever we need them to interact with, like, smaller characters and such.
Yes,
So
which is understandable, but at the same time, kind of annoying story wise.
yeah, same here and such. So yeah.
But at least I'm grateful that we got this. I'm at least grateful that we got more characters to drop with the narrow gauge characters in season 4
Pretty much, yeah. Pretty
before
much.
it became only Thomas and James, annoyingly.
Yeah.
But going
Um.
back to your handle,
Back to Sir Handle and everything. So after Sir Handle impresses Gordon and everything, he and the coach, basically he tries to continue on with his job. But the coach is still cross with him that basically he's being a rude little shithead and such. Basically they pull a little troublesome trucks and that they try to hold him back when he starts climbing up the hill. But luckily, his driver, fireman, and the guard basically help put sand on the rails and everything, and he's able to get the train to the top station. The thing controller also calls him out on his bad behavior as well too. And Sir Handel was good for a while, but then one day he went back to his old grumpy self, and when he found out that he was also meant to shun trucks, he was just like, you know what?
actually, the reason he was angry was because it was Peter Sam's turn, but the thing controller made him go instead.
Pretty much, yeah. And pretty much, yeah. When Sir Handel also found out he was meant to shun truck, he was like, you know what? I'm staying here on the track. I'm gonna rip this track apart. Let's see you try to. Let's see. Let's see you try to do something about that, huh? How do you like that? Pretty much Peter Sam came and when Sir Handel started the thing controller, Sir Handel was just like, oh god, I'm fucked, aren't I? And basically he limped to the shed, and the thing controller is just like, oh, I'm banishing you to the Shadow Realm.
No.
No, much better. And story ends. Everything. Okay. Honestly, do we also want to talk about the thing controller real quick and such?
Yes, yes. I'll start if you don't mind.
Go ahead, because I need to get some water anyway.
All right. So we get introduced to the Think Controller, or Mr. Peter Sam, if we want to go by Railway Series logic.
Yes.
And so far, he's probably the strictest and the strictest controller that we met so far in the books.
Pretty much. Just wait. Just wait till we get to the next book, and you'll see just how. You'll basically see how much strict and how much of a troll he is too.
Yeah, and how much he's a you don't fucking mess with guy.
Pretty much. Pretty much. He's not like Mr. Percival. Basically, this thin controller. If you make him cross, like I said, you better watch out.
If you make it cross, well, see you at the funeral.
Pretty much, yeah. See, I mean, to be fair, in Sir Handel's case, like in Sir Handel's case, he probably wishes he was at a funeral.
Yes.
But yeah, it's also a little interesting that in the TV series, it's just basically for a while until like the hit era. It's interesting too, like. It's kind of a little surprising it took the hit era for them to finally be like, you know what? Yeah, why don't we have a thing controller for the Skarloey Railway? Let's change that.
Yeah. I was kind of surprised that they actually introduced the thing controller because I was so used to Sir Top and Hat being the controller.
Yeah, pretty much. Same here. It's like again, like it wasn't until I read the Railway series and everything I was like that I was like, oh, okay, so technically there is supposed to be like another controller for this railway and stuff. So same here. TV series logic. I always thought it was just a top and hat.
Yeah, but hey, at least we got a new controller and we got to know him.
Pretty much. Not only a new controller, but pretty much at the end of the
which is basically
which
the controller.
To meet the owner too.
Yes, that's right, Sir Handel Brown. That's his real name.
Yep.
Yeah. So go ahead, give your thoughts on Sir Handel.
All right. So my thoughts on Sir Handel, everything. This is a very good story, honestly. Again, much like in the last story, this is a really good introduction to Sir Handel's character, and basically give the readers an idea on like what kind of character Sir Handel is going to be throughout the series and everything. Just being, this character that means well and basically means well in the end. But he's but you can see that he is very picky, especially when it comes to like basically almost kind of like Gordon. Basically, what kind of work he wants to do and everything, what type of coaches he's used to and everything. Just like the idea of starting trucks and everything. It's basically no wonder why he looks up to Gordon so much and everything. Because when you think about it, Sir Handel is kind of like a miniature version of Gordon in a sense. Because he thinks, he's very important and everything, that he shouldn't be doing jobs like shunting or like doing trucks or like basically he should also be giving proper coaches as well too and everything. And actually, you know what? There's also something I really think about it as well. It's probably not as true because like. Again, once we get to like the basically the book where like Sir Handel and Peter Sam used to work and everything. We do get to see that like originally they were painted blue, painted green, so it's kind of not a stretch to see why like Britt and David also painted blue and green. But it kind of makes me wonder if like if at least not Britt and David, it kind of makes me wonder if Wilbur kind of made Sir Handel blue and green to kind of like sort of almost being like a play on like both Gordon and Henry's character if they were like narrow gauge engines and such.
You know what? That's actually a really interesting. That's actually a really interesting interesting topic you brought. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't even notice that.
Yeah. Because like I said, Sir Handel's pretty much almost has the same kind of characteristics as Gordon in a way. And well, at least for Peter Sam, like while he's not as sick as Henry is,
not as big of a bitch as Henry is in the books.
Pretty much. There's still some similarities between the two in that like they both sometimes get overexcited and such, and they both also sometimes think too much of themselves. Basically also thinking they're all high and mighty in a sort of way. It does make you wonder and everything. But yeah, pretty much anything else. The story is fine for the most part. Although I will admit this is probably the weakest out of the books for me so far and everything, but I wouldn't say it's bad. It's definitely not meh category and such. Like I said, there are a couple of good laughs and such. I definitely love the interaction between Sir Handel and Gordon, and how Sir Handel practically left Gordon speechless after their talk. That was pretty funny and everything. Especially also loved how the TV series handled it too as well, especially with the music and such. And basically, as I also said, I also do like the dynamic between basically between Sir Handel and the coaches as well too. The only real reason why I feel the book is not, or at least the story is not as strong, at least in terms of in the book version. In a way, I do kind of feel like, whenever I do read this story and such, it kind of feels like the middle part kind of drags on the story a little bit, in a way. Now, to be fair, in a way, I can understand why the middle section was needed and such, because again, like, it's basically just supposed to show, like, how Sir Handel's first day went and everything, and basically basically how like the thing controller basically giving him a severe warning and everything, and you think that like after this that Sir Hannah will behave from now on, but no, basically as Bonnie said and everything, because basically Sir Hannah had to work on a day where Peter Sam was supposed to work and everything. Basically Sir Hannah's going back to his like little bitchy self, rant and everything. That basically causes another trouble and everything. And again, I'll admit, the way Wilbur actually wrote that scene was actually pretty good and still pretty funny as well too.
It is.
Although to be fair, I think the TV series did a lot more better, especially visual wise, and especially the way Sir Topham Hatt just basically look at Sir Handel and just basically be like, "I'm gonna talk to you later. And I better hope that you made out a will by the time you get back home, motherfucker."
I'm kind of sitting there thinking, like, he really came all the way to tell him he's gonna talk to him later. Wow.
I mean, that takes guts. Like, I can just picture Sir Topham Hatt just trying to figure out what to tell Sir Handel, but he's still so pissed off at Sir Handel. He just took one look at him and just be like, you know what? You're not worth my rage. I'm gonna wait later, and I'm gonna release all my rage where no one can see us. Okay. Yeah, that was definitely a lot. But you know what? Yeah, this is actually one of the few times where I actually do prefer the TV episode over the book episode, just more for like pacing wise and everything. Because I do feel like the way they pace the story in the episode actually flowed a little bit more better and such. Which again, not to say that like the way the story in this book flow was like bad or anything. There's still a couple of good laughs. It's just. It's just I can definitely see why Britt and David cut off the middle section and everything, because I mean it does add some stuff and everything. Again, it does also add how Sir Handel's attitude basically was still the same, even after like he was given that first warning and such. But even at the same time, it doesn't really add it really doesn't add that much to the story overall when I think about it. So.
I can see where you're coming from, honestly, and I do agree with the middle half. Like, it should have been trimmed down. The part where Sir Handel is basically climbing up the hill and the coaches are playing tricks. It is funny, but I will admit it could have been trimmed down.
Yeah. So I don't really have too much to add overall to this story. So for my rating for Sir Handel, I'm gonna give it a 7. Honestly.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, this is still not the worst story in the book overall. Like, there's still plenty of good laughs to be had with the scenes and everything. It's just, honestly, the only reason why I'm giving it a 7 is just basically that middle section. And so that middle section really just, like, honestly, by the time you get both to the middle and the end, it kind of just took away the fun, at least for me. It kind of took away the fun a little bit out of the story for me at the end. So that's why I'm giving it a 7.
Okay, then. Well, I disagree with you on the rating, because to me, this story is a fucking 10.
Wow, okay.
It's a 10.
Right.
Every time I come to this book, the most 99% of the time, the only reason I come back to this book is because of that story alone. It's so hilarious. Like, compared to Off the Rails, both of them are funny, but if I had to pick which one I would choose, I would definitely go with Sir Handel, because the way Sir Handel acts, it makes me laugh so hard from beginning to end.
I understand.
Even from the beginning, where he says like, "Oh well, I suppose I must."
You know what? I definitely do love how basically it really rushed. It kind of makes him almost kind of sounds like I guess not a prima donna. I guess that's not the right word I'm looking for. But basically almost kind of no. So here's the right word. Basically making Sir Handel act like he's some kind of rich snob that basically thinks he's better than everyone.
Yes. And I gotta say, I adore Rushton's narration for this story. I think he was amazing for this story. Morris, on the other hand, he was garbage, complete garbage.
Yeah.
He did not have energy, and I'll be honest, I was pissed. I was pretty pissed because this is my favorite story from the book, and he made it, and he turned it from a great one to an absolute snore fest.
Oof.
Yeah, guys can tell that I'm starting to get pretty.
Don't worry, Barney. We got what you know what? Now that I think about it, it's kind of a little interesting. Like in the next story, not only we're gonna be done with Dobby, we're gonna be done with Morris too.
Yes.
It kind of makes me wonder if this was like a coincidence or something.
Yeah, yeah. And you guys can, some of you guys like him, and I respect that. No, don't worry about it. If you like him, that's fine.
Yeah, same here.
But to me, I think starting from book 9, he was there for the money, basically. Yeah. There were some stories where he would put the energy, and some stories where he basically was bored out of his fucking mind. Where it's like basically he's just reading the book normally, and the voices are a little bit inconsistent as well.
Yeah, it is.
Like in some parts he may do one voice, and then the other record he may do another voice. Kind of inconsistent in a sort of way. Yeah, and yeah, I'm being harsh on Morris because he was great in the previous season. Like the first 8 books, he was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But for these books, I don't know. No, he's bad. And we're gonna get to one story where I think he was so bad that I actually had to stop and do something else.
Basically, Barney had to stop and go for a walk.
Yes, pretty much. But yeah, the reason I give the story a 10 is because I think Sir Handel's character sells the story for me from beginning to end.
I understand.
And combine that with Rushton's narration, you got a perfect story. And the part where I burst out laughing so hard is when he says, "Trucks, trucks." Yes, he started to repeat it. Trucks. I burst out laughing at that scene alone, and that's it.
I mean, yeah, I can definitely understand like why the story is a fan favorite, and basically, yeah, as you said, like both Rushton and Sir Handel's character as basically as a whole, like it does sell the book. Like like I said, there are definitely good moments in it.
I agree. Now, in terms of the book and the TV episode, I like them both, but I'm gonna go with the book version because I just can't. Rushton's narration is the best.
I understand.
Yeah, so that's why I give it a 10. Yeah, kind of shocking to some of you, but
Alrighty. Well, kind of a first in history, but you're actually 3 points higher than me. I got so far my final score is a 15 out of 40, and yours is an 18 out of 40.
And that's probably the only 10 I'm gonna give in this book.
Alrighty, well then this next story maybe we might also disagree on a little bit, but alrighty, go ahead. Your next story is actually my favorite story out of the whole, not only just the book, but probably out of the whole series as well too. Peter, Sam, and the Refreshment Lady.
Kind of ironic that we follow my favorite story with your favorite story.
Well, go ahead. Tell me why. Tell me why this story is not your favorite.
First I gotta get the synopsis. How the fuck am I gonna talk about the story without giving the synopsis?
Well, I mean, to be fair, I'm pretty sure our viewers can read. You guys can read, right?
No, but still, it's fun to give the synopsis anyway. But okay, so we start off after Sir Handel was shot up in the shed, and Peter Sam is the only engine available to do the work, and he's so excited that the fireman cannot get him to start.
Yeah. The fireman found him hard to handle everything. Which should be fair, for the longest time as a kid, like I could never understand what Rushton was trying to say. Anytime after Rushton said that like fireman found it hard to get Peter Sam ready, I always thought that like. I basically always thought that like the fireman was telling Peter Sam to start up or something, and
he was basically
a little kid me was just like, but he is startup, isn't he? But no, it's not till like after reading like the physical book, it's supposed to be sober up. Yeah, come on, Peter Sam, sober up and everything. All right, stop getting drunk, okay?
You stole my fucking joke.
Stop getting drunk. Stop taking Henry's special cold, Peter Sam, and start sobering up. All right. I do not want to get another DUI. Okay.
You stole my fucking joke. But yeah. Peter Sam's so excited that he's the only one that's gonna do the work. Mm-hmm. And his job for the day is basically take some passengers to the harbor, And basically, Sir Handel is kind of like bored because after what happened,
Well, I
he's like,
mean, technically not. I mean, isn't harbor is supposed to be the lake?
it's kind of well. I call it harbor, but lake kind of same thing if you think about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the harbor, and basically before they get to the harbor, Peter Sam meets Henry, and Henry tells him that if he's late, that he's gonna leave the passengers behind, which kind of leads Peter Sam to worry, but he doesn't worry for long because
But
he's
actually, before you said that, like, before you go over, well, I mean, like, well, I mean, like in the original story, he's worried, but basically in Johnny Morris's version, Peter Sam's just like, you think I give a fuck? You think I give a fuck? Leave a passenger stranded. Let him go hungry then.
oh yeah, I remember, I forgot about that. Yeah,
Yeah. Actually, I do like that little detail that Johnny Morris added to Peter Sam, being like, Peter Sam wasn't worried just yet. But then after he realized the situation, he was like, oh shit.
yeah. So basically, so going back, he doesn't worry for too long because he's still so overexcited.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, he trundles along singing a little song. I'm Peter Sam, I'm running this line. I'm Peter
Peter
Sam,
Sam,
I'm
I'm
running
running
this
this
line.
line.
And so they basically get to the harbor after that, and Peter Sam has to wait, and he gets impatient because he's worried shitless about Henry, about being late to meet Henry.
Mm-hmm.
So after the wait is over, Peter Sam is so impatient to start, but the refreshment lady who is serving refreshments, she comes home on that train, and
Mm-hmm.
Peter Sam was so impatient that he almost left her behind until the
Pretty
guards
much.
stopped the.
Although in the book, and I basically kind of like that. I basically kind of like that Wilbur wrote this in, considering a real life incident. But basically in the book, it's implied that like Peter Sam pretty much blames the guard, because pretty much Peter Sam thought for sure he heard a whistle.
Yes, and so basically Peter Sam starts, and the coaches are like, "Stop! Stop! Stop! You left her behind! You left her behind!" And basically, they have to wait till the freshman to get in the train. And now Peter Sam is worried shitless that they're going to be late to meet Henry. Fortunately, though, they get to the station on time. The freshman lady bursts at Peter Sam, saying, "What do you mean by leaving me behind?" and all that stuff. And Peter Sam explains to her that he was worried that
Basically Henry was going to leave them behind, and basically that's when the freshman lady would be like, "Oh, you little dipshit! Henry wasn't there, girl. He was fucking with you." And
he's got to
Peter Sam was just looking at her and looking at Henry, just being like, "I'm about to end this whole world."
And this is something that I love that the TV series did because it doesn't happen in
same here.
the face that we have, like,
It's just basically the way even George Carlin said, like, but Henry just told away. It's just basically how David Midden perfectly had that shot of Henry just basically going away with that shit-eating grin and just being like, "Ha fuck yeah, bye,
Viva, viva, viva,
arriba."
Okay, let's not insert Easy Gomez into this.
Yeah.
So this story was actually based on an incident that happened to Wilbur when he was actually volunteering at the Tallyford Railway.
Yes.
And I'm actually trying to find it in the book I have here. Let's see if I can find it.
I do know that he was actually working as a guard, and
Yes.
and this is basically why I said that. Like, I basically love that he put this little intro. He basically wrote this little segment in his book where either Wilbur basically Wilbur tries to put Peter Sam under the bus, and basically try to make it seem like it was his fault for starting early and everything.
I know, right? Yeah, I'm trying to find them.
Yeah, I do know that. I think I do know that Wilbur basically blew his whistle and everything. And I do know that basically when they started, actually the real life story is kind of a little funnier because.
Aha. Found it.
Okay, go ahead. You tell it.
All right, so this is what Wilbur said. This is in his own words.
Alrighty.
While I was checking tickets and firmly fastening doors, she would usually stand at the station door in full view. This is, I think he's talking about Mrs. Davis, which is the refreshment lady at the time and the Tallyford Railway.
Alrighty.
On that fateful evening, she was not in full view, having been delayed in her packing up by a last-minute customer. This must have happened on the Wednesday, and as on that day during the peak season, an extra evening train was run, and it was important that our departure should not be late. I was so concerned by this that after the ticket and door duty, I forgot Mrs. Davies and gave the bill the right away, something like that.
Uh-huh.
Bill ought Bill ought to have remembered, but he was probably bothered at the time too, so he opened up and off we went. We had barely cleared the platform when I heard a frantic yell, and there was Mrs. Davies, red in the face, arms waving, bustling down the platform. I whistled to attract Bill's attention, but my whistling was evidently drowned by number four's Edward Thomas, with number four is Edward Thomas, by the way.
Yeah.
Number four, Edward Thomas's clatter. So I tried screwing down the brake. This had the desired effect. It didn't stop the train, but the drag attracted Bill's attention by the time we'd gone about 300 yards down the line.
Mm-hmm.
And he propelled the train back to collect his fermenting mother-in-law.
Yes. You heard it right. So basically, the refreshment lady at Wilbur Level High was actually the driver's mother-in-law. So you can imagine the most awkward dinner conversation he basically had with his wife that day. Hey, honey, you know my friend, where he was acting a guard today. Well, basically, he almost left your mother stranded on the platform throughout the whole day.
Wait for it. It gets funnier. Hold on.
Okay, go on.
Wait for it. We picked up her gear, depositing both it and her in the van, apologizing profusely. Is that how you pronounce it?
Apologizing for what?
Profusely. That's how you pronounce it?
I believe you pronounced it right, but profusely or something like that, yeah.
Yeah, profusely, apologizing profusely the while. She was too much out of breath to say much at first, but by the time we reached Wharf, I'd heard plenty. By Friday morning, Mrs. Davis was threatening Bill and myself with dire penalties if we ever left her behind again. So I knew she'd been the funny side, and that all was now forgiven.
Oh.
Wow, what a story!
It was actually, and you know what? I could definitely see why and how that memory basically inspired Wilbur to write this book, basically to write this story in a book. It's a good story. Basically, yeah, it is a really good story. Basically, after hearing that little inspiration.
Yes, and actually, that story was put on hold because there wasn't enough inspiration to put it into the books, and it wasn't until Wilbur started writing Four Little Engines that he went back into his drama and said, "Hey, look, it's my own personal experience." So he decided to write a story based on it.
Mm-hmm. So
Peter Sam and the Refreshment Lady. Okay. So I know a lot of people like this story, and I know Seko absolutely adores this story as well.
Yeah. Because like I said, I'm a huge Peter Sam fan. Honestly, if I was to make like a top 3 favorite Skarloey engine characters and everything, Rusty would definitely be at number 3. For number 2, sometimes I go back and forth between either Duncan or Duke, and definitely for number 1, Peter Sam is definitely up there as my number 1 favorite Skarloey engine.
Yeah. That doesn't surprise me. That didn't surprise me. So Peter Sam and the Refreshment Lady. I do like the story. Like, I don't think it's a bad story. I don't think it's a bad story. I think it's a good story, but if you think about it, it kind of drags on a little bit in the middle half, sort of.
Honestly, I don't really. Honestly, this one I kind of gonna disagree with you on a little bit. Honestly, I might give you a little bit more leeway in terms of after they picked up the Refreshment Lady. That I will admit that maybe the part of Peter Sam whistling to the other passengers to hurry up at the station. So maybe that wasn't needed all too much and everything, but I never really got the. But honestly, unlike with Sir Hannibal and such, honestly, reading both the book version and the TV series version, the story just flows really nicely and such. But go ahead. You go first. You go first, and then when you're done, I'll start gushing about how much I like this story.
Okay, I will say this: the TV episode demolishes the book version, like, really well. I think the TV episode is perfect. Like, there's nothing I would have changed about the TV episode. It's just perfect as it is.
Mm-hmm.
But the book version, though, it's good. I will say it's good. There are some parts, like I said, that I think drags on a little bit. Like the beginning, was a little bit, long,
Hmm.
but I found that, but it didn't bother me too much. And I love the part where Rushton narrates where it says the last passengers arrived. The guard was ready with his flag and whistle. The refreshment lady walked across the platform. That part. And then basically the way he makes the coaches say, "Stop, stop, stop." Basically. I
Yeah.
love the voices he gives to the coaches. And honestly, I think both Morris and Russian did a good job with the story. Honestly,
Hmm.
no complaints from the both of them.
Yeah, same here. But honestly, my favorite part of Lisa Trans and Morris part, I definitely do like the song part, especially what he did for the coaches as well too. As well, he definitely made us song a lot more catchier when it was the coaches' turn to start singing.
Oh yeah, he's cocky, but he's nice truck. He's cocky truck, but nice truck. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I love that. I
Bong,
love that. And
bong.
I forgot to say about the illustrations. Oh my God, that illustration where Peter Sam is running down
Yeah.
the field. Oh my God, so beautiful.
Agreed. Yeah. I pretty much agree with you right there.
Yeah. And to be fair, I think Dolby did a good job illustrating this story. Honestly, I think this is probably his best work so far.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, I agree. I definitely do agree with you right there.
Yeah. So I don't have too much to say on Peter Sam and the Refreshment Lady because it's kind of a simple story as well. This basically
Hmm.
Peter Sam gets overexcited that Peter Sam gets impatient and leaves the Refreshment Lady behind
Hmm.
by accident. Um, so I'm gonna give my rating so you can give your thoughts on the story. So
Alrighty.
for Peter Sam and the Refreshment Lady, this is gonna be tough. Let's see.
Like I said, be honest with yourself. One question you should always ask yourself when you reading these books, or at least these stories, is it basically is this a story where you can see yourself reading it again, or basically is this a story where you don't mind reading it again if you have to?
I think those what you said kind of applies to me because you know most of the time I only come back to the books I really enjoy reading a
Mm-hmm.
lot. So, I guess I would say I will probably come back to it because
Yeah.
if I read Sir Handel, I'm definitely gonna read Peter Sam and the Refreshment Ladies.
Mm-hmm.
So I would give it. You know what? I wanted to give it a 7, but I don't feel great in giving it a 7. So I think an 8 would be all right with me.
Okay. Alrighty. Alright. So basically, your final score so far is the 26 out of 40. Actually.
Yeah. I
Uh.
wanted to give it a I wanted to give it a 7, but the more I thought about it, I was like, nah, 7 is just too low because
Mm-hmm.
it's a good story and it does have a one little flaw, but it doesn't affect the story for me. So I think 8 is the best rating I can give it.
Alrighty then. Alrighty then. Well, for me, Peter Salmon and Freshman Lady, this is still a really amazing story, honestly. And such. You know what? I was worried at reading into this. I was going to notice the flaws and everything, but honestly, the more I read into the story and not only having like the visuals from the book, but also the visuals from the TV series in my head and such, this story is still amazing and everything. Basically, it's like you said, it's a simple story, but it's one of those simple stories where Wilbur was actually able to make it really good. He was actually able to make this engaging and such. And you know what? I really do disagree with you. Like, I really do not feel like the story dragged in any way, shape, or form as such. Honestly, I think it flowed really nicely. And basically, yeah, it's like you said. The TV series actually also really helped show how much you can make the story flow really good, and especially with the visuals, with Peter Sand running around the Skarloey Railway and everything.
I
Like,
will make a
really,
confession though.
go ahead.
It could be that I'm a little bit burnt out because since I've read these books so many times, and
Yeah.
those stories kind of got a little bit of a burnout. That's why I may be feeling why I don't think Peter Sam and the Refreshability is a perfect score.
Yeah. Oh well, I mean that I can definitely understand because, like, yeah, basically, if you read these stories and even watch the TV series like so many times and everything, then basically, yeah, you are gonna feel burned out with these stories because you've seen them so many times that you basically know how it begins, how it ends, and everything. That basically, like, there's nothing really that much surprises left. But I think what makes, like, at least in terms of me, what makes stories like Peter Sam and Refreshment Lady still work is that basically, like you said, like it's still very simple in a way, and I think that's probably why I still come back to the story every now and then, because again, like the visuals as well as like the simple story with Peter Sam being like impatient but also worried that the passengers might be stranded if he was late and everything. Again, like I think it works off really well. I think the story really does capture who Peter Sam is as a character.
I
Cause like
agree. I
yeah, because
agree.
like I said, we get to see not only his kind nature with how he treats the coaches versus how Sir Handel treated them, but we also get to see like his little impatient side because he does care for his passengers and everything. He basically wants to be a really useful engine and make sure that he's right there on time and everything, and that says a lot about him as a character. And so I think that's probably one of the reasons why he's one of my favorite characters in the Skarloey Railway, because again, like because again, he's simple, but he still has lots of character traits that anyone, including myself, can relate to and such. And I could definitely relate to Peter Sam, and like into basically like in situations like this and such, where basically you're worried. Sometimes I feel the same way too. Like sometimes I'm worried that like if I don't get to like a certain place or a certain event on time, like am I gonna get in trouble or something, or like, am I gonna miss out something really cool and everything? Sometimes I end up regretting not going to certain places and such.
You know what? Now that you mentioned that, I think I might change my opinion on the story. You know why?
I think I did it.
Yes, you did it because you brought up a good point. Like you were just referring to now that you feel worried about being because if you get late to a certain work or something that you're gonna get in trouble. And
Mm-hmm.
that's exactly how I felt this year when I was in college. Like the teacher said not to be late, and I was like, "What the fuck's gonna happen if I get late? I better get there on time." And you know what? Yeah, I'm actually gonna change my rating for the story.
All right, go right ahead. What's your rating now?
It was an 8, but I'm gonna change it, believe it or not, to a 9.
Okay, okay. I mean, like nine's still good, and so all right. So now it's a 27 out of 40. For the final book so far.
Yeah, because as you were talking, I was thinking about your points about the story, and then I kept analyzing. I was like, yeah, you know what? The story has no flaws at all. What the fuck was I thinking?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, basically, and you know what? Sometimes I also find myself in a similar situation with Peter Sam, where like even if you're on time or like you're about to get ready to event, pretty much as soon as you arrive and as soon as you find out it just got canceled or something, sometimes you just basically want to look at your boss or your professor and be like, "You mean I got up for nothing? You wasted my time for nothing?"
Yeah, pretty much. Because I happened to be with a few professors at college. Like some of them didn't announce that they were not coming, and basically I wasted my money in the journey.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah. So, but yeah. There's also that, and yeah. I can't really think of anything else too much to say. Cause like I said, basically like you said as well too. When that final scene came about Peter Sam found out that he was worried over nothing. Again, that was pretty funny. And again, and again, I also agree with you. The way the TV series handled it was definitely much better and such. Especially visual wise too. They made that scene even more funnier than in the book and such.
I agree. In the
So
TV episode, at the end with Henry Space, like,
so yeah, you know what? I'm also gonna get the story a 9 and such. Yeah. I'm definitely gonna give the story a 9 to 10. It's just a really again, it's just a really simple story that I still look forward to reading to and even just watch it from time to time. So yeah, I'm giving it a 9 as well. So far, my final rating for
this
the
is the
book's
first time in history. This is the first time in the podcast's history that that you actually changed my mind. Because before, I changed your mind in some stories.
you have actually, yes, you have. Um, which story did you change my mind? I'm trying to remember.
One of them, the first one that comes to my mind is Paintballs and Queens, where you give it a 1 and I give it a 0.
Actually, yeah, that is pretty true. Um, I don't know if I don't know if you changed my mind. I'm trying to think if there was like a story where like you basically changed my mind and giving basically giving a story a higher rating than what I was originally going to get. I'm trying to remember.
Let me see.
I don't think you have just yet.
No, I think the first time was Paintpots and Queens
Yeah. Well,
because
like we said, I'm pretty sure there might be someone in the comments that might, that might know and such. They
yes,
probably might, binge watch.
the fans are smarter than us, so
Yeah,
let them have the final say.
yeah, yeah. Because knowing them, they're probably gonna binge watch the first season, and they'll probably tell us in this basically in this story, you made Sakura change his mind and basically made you give him an ice cream. But yeah.
But yeah, this is the first time that Sekoa changed Bonnie's mind, which I'm definitely gonna write that down so I don't forget.
Pretty much. But yeah,
Okay.
but yeah. So far, you're still three. So far, you're still three ratings ahead of me in terms of the overall book. Right now, it's 27 out of 40. So depending on your rating for the last story, Old Faithful, I think it's very possible that you're gonna give the story an A in some way.
Oh, we'll see. We'll
We'll
see.
see.
All right.
Old Faithful.
Actually, before we get started,
Go
when I
ahead.
was a kid, since I still was practicing my English, I called the story "Oh Fafu."
Oh, Old Faithful.
Fafu. Yeah.
Oh,
You know the character from, oh well, never mind, because you haven't played the Mario Luigi series. There's this character called Fawful.
actually, I was gonna say, I think there was like, I don't remember if it was like a show, but I think there was like, I think I did heard like the word "fawful" at some point, but I don't remember.
Yeah,
But I don't remember when.
basically when I was younger, I used to call the story Old Fawful.
Ah.
But it wasn't.
Let me also to be fair, little fun fact about Sakura Dito. Basically when I was little, basically I used to go to like speech classes because like I have trouble in pronouncing my ths.
Yeah, same here. Actually, I actually took pronouncing classes as well when I was younger. Yeah, and actually, I have a funny story. One time,
Go ahead.
I'm sure everybody in the podcast will. I'm sure the fans will love to hear this story.
Go ahead. What's the story?
One time, I was supposed to take the classes normally,
Uh huh.
and I actually put some short pants for to go. I was thinking, I think it was 4 or 3. I don't remember. And believe, if I'm not mistaken, I believe the pants had a crack or something. I don't remember.
Oh boy. Go ahead.
Not a crack that is visible. You know, I think it was dirty or something. I don't remember because I
Oh,
was
okay.
very little.
Okay.
And my grandma told me you're gonna have to change them and you're gonna have to put the long ones because and I
Okay.
didn't want to. And I threw a shit fit.
Uh.
I threw a shit fit,
Uh.
and my grandmother got so pissed. She actually decided to take me back home, and that shit fit got so bad that she actually pretended that there was a police car that pulled up, and that's not a
Uh
police car,
oh.
that
Yeah.
was no that just was passing by, not
I
nothing.
know. I know. I think I have a feeling where the story is going, but go on.
And she pretended saying, "Officer, look, this little kid is behaving badly," and that actually got me more shit fit. And then basically, so basically she got tired. And it's like, then be quiet, and then she took me back, and all's well that ends well.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could tell that I was an annoying little brat.
Well, I mean, to be fair, like, pretty much when all of us were in that ages, I'm pretty sure all of us were annoying little brats.
Yeah, and I think the reason I didn't want to take the pants off was because those pants were actually
Oh.
Thomas branded.
Ah.
And little me adore
Yeah.
Thomas.
That I can understand.
Yeah, I'm sure my grandmother doesn't remember that story because it's been years ago. But
Um,
I'm kind of shocked that I remember the story, and that's a story I've never told before. This is the first time I actually tell it to someone.
huh, interesting. Guys, you heard it here. You heard it here first. Barney told us his story because we're all special to him.
But anyway, let's go to Old
Old
Faithful.
Faithful. Alrighty. We'll take these my turn. So, alright, here we go. Old Faithful. Basically, after the events of Peter, Sam, and the refreshment lady, now basically it's Peter Sam's turn to get sick and also need repairs. So because of that, the Thing Controller finally gave Sir Handel another chance, and surprisingly, Sir Handel does try to be kind to the coaches. I guess we could say he either pretends to be nice, or like he is being nice and such, whatever you want to believe and everything. But basically, he tries to be nice and even sing some songs. But not surprisingly, the coaches still don't trust him, considering the shit basically the shit he gave him in the last story and everything. Basically, the coaches still hate him so much that they thought that Sir Handel bumped them and everything after he suddenly had to stop. When basically some careless sheep were straying on the line and everything. That basically just before they got to the station and everything, they made Sir Handel come off the line and such by bumping into him and everything. Sir Handel limps home and everything, and just when the Thing Controller was about to give up, that's when Skarloey basically comes up and basically offers to take the train for them and everything. Because I almost forgot to tell you, this story takes place on Market Day actually. So basically, Skarloey agrees to bring the people home on Market Day after telling the coaches off for being rude little shits and everything. So basically, Skarloey basically goes around the rails and everything. He's having a nice time so far, but basically, as soon as he starts getting uphill and everything, his old age and worn parts start to show and everything. He starts to become very tired and such. But thankfully, he makes it up the hill just fine and thinks that the journey will be much more better downhill. Spoiler alert, it doesn't. Basically, when Skarloey starts again, his parts become so bad and so worn that basically the spring finally gave way, and basically Skarloey is now broken and such. Basically, he's now tilted on the one side and everything. And at first, the driver suggested that they're probably going to need a bus now. But Skarloey promises him that either he gets the train home or basically everyone gets stranded and they die. Because that's how much of a badass Skarloey is. It's kind of stupid when you kind of think about it.
He's the type of guy that says, "If I die, everyone dies with me."
Which I mean, now that I kind of think about it, yeah, it's badass, but at the same time, Skarloey, you do know that if you break down, it's gonna be bad news for everybody, right? You're gonna put everybody in danger, right? Maybe it's kind of a good idea that maybe you used to bring a bus and such. I'm pretty sure a bus stop is not that far away and everything. No, I want to take the passengers home. I basically have too much pride to let them take a bus.
Let me do it. No, I want to take the passengers home.
They probably blew off all the money in the first place to get on the train and not on the bus, so it's their fault.
Well, go ahead. I have a very interesting point that the Unlucky Tuck said, but I'll tell it when we.
All right. Basically to wrap up the synopsis and such. Basically, Skarloey does actually get the train to the station on time and everything. James respectfully puffs away and everything. Was actually really do like that little detail. Both in the story, even in the TV series when you see it as well. But basically, after Skarloey brings the train home and everything, basically for his bravery and determination, the owner finally decides that now would be the right time to mend Skarloey and everything. And so now while Skarloey is away, right now it's just Peter, Sam, and Sir Handel that's running the line. Until in the next book, we're going to meet another new engine, but that's not till later.
Mm-hmm. Well, two engines, actually.
Two, yeah. So, although technically the second one's not going to come till much later.
Yeah, the second one is actually a maintenance engine for the railway.
Pretty much, yeah. Alrighty, so Old Faithful. Honestly, much like with Old Iron, this is actually a really good way to end off the book and everything. It really does. This actually is a really good story to basically tie into Skarloey's character in the beginning and such. I don't really have too much to say on the story itself overall, to be honest and everything.
It's quite short if you think about it.
It is. It is very short, but at the same time, it works actually. It definitely does work with the structure and such. It works on basically what we've known about Skarloey up until this point. Now that we finally get to see him in action and everything, finally see him pulling the coaches and such. After so long, you really do get to feel the happiness in him when he's finally getting his chance to pull trains after so long, and finally seeing all his friends and all the places that he remembers and such too. And to be fair, the TV series also really captures this pretty well too, as well with the music and everything. And speaking of which, the illustrations they're not too bad, to be honest. Although I will admit, again, much like what Bonnie said, The way like Dalby draws Skarloey and everything, it really does feel off in some way.
I forgot to mention. Did you see the illustration at the end of Sir Handel?
Oh yeah, where basically Wilbur made a little note about like about basically like
No, 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 no,
advertising.
no, no, no. The illustration at the end of Sir Handel, the story, where
oh yeah,
Skarloey's looking at Sir Handel with that face.
yeah.
Skarloey looks off in that illustration, really
He
off.
does, yeah, he really does. But I will admit, I do like the illustrations that Dalby made about like Skarloey after he got broken down and such. Honestly, I think this is another one where the TV series does a little bit better. Where basically you could really see that yeah, Skarloey really is broken and such.
Yes.
And you know what, like you know what again, like as much as people want to say that like Skarloey was probably being too stubborn and such and everything, basically in a way you really can't help but to feel like a little pride and basically a little basically a little admirable moment when like Skarloey is determined to still bring the passengers home even after like all that has happened and such.
At least he had the courage to continue, you know.
True, he did.
Because if this was someone like Duncan, I know we haven't gotten to him, but just
Yeah.
making an example.
Well, to be fair, like I'm pretty sure even this was someone like Sir Hannel, he probably would have given up as well.
Yes. Yeah, either Peter Sam or if this was Peter Sam or I mean not Peter Sam, if it was Sir Handel or Duncan, they probably would have kept up. They're like, oh, I broke down.
Yeah.
Let's get the fucking bus.
Yeah.
Yeah, but let's be real. If this was Sir Handel or Duncan, they would have given up. They would have given up immediately.
Yeah.
But
Although it is kind of interesting because, like, we will see this kind of like little dynamic and behavior coming from old engines, much more later, and like not just one book, but in another book coming up soon too.
yes, yes, and actually, should I wait till we get to season 3 because
Um.
I
Yeah. Let's wait till we get to season 3.
yeah, all right. So I'll say that point when we get to season 3. All right.
Alrighty.
So go ahead, continue.
Um. But yeah. After all that and everything, it's a fun story. Again, like it definitely wraps up the whole book, perfectly to what it's trying to do and everything. So I don't really have too many negatives to say and everything. So you know what? You know what? Because yeah, now I'm also thinking like will this be a story where like I wouldn't mind reading it again and to be honest, like I definitely wouldn't I definitely wouldn't mind reading this again from time to time. So I'm gonna give it an 8. I'm you know what you know what you know what yeah you know what yeah I'm definitely feeling generous. I'm gonna give the story an 8. Why not?
Okay.
All right,
Well,
all
well,
right,
well.
go ahead. Give your thoughts, and then I'll go ahead and give our final ratings for this book.
Yeah. Should I talk about the Rushton and Morris for the story?
Sure, sure. Go right ahead. Go right ahead. Start whatever you want to start off with first.
Okay. Okay, so you guys remember back at the last story where I said that, well, back in Saranda where I said that Morris, there was one story where I felt Morris was unbearable. This is it. He was unbearable in this story. Oh my goodness! Like I'll tell you guys. I'll be honest with you guys. I was listening to his narrations yesterday
Mm-hmm.
on sitting down, and he was so boring that I just got up of the chair and I started making myself some lunch because I couldn't take it. It was so boring. Oh my goodness. And his Skarloey voice doesn't help at all either.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I
yeah,
definitely do
this
agree.
might be the worst. In my opinion, I don't know about you. This might be the worst story he's ever narrated.
Well, let's see. Will he do something in Percy the Small Engine that'll make it even more worse?
We'll have to wait and see. As for Rushton, though, I think he did decent. I think it wasn't that great because the story isn't that long either. So
Yeah.
I think Rushton did decent as well.
Mhm.
I think Rushton did decent, I should say. But yeah, All Faithful, this story is awesomely bad.
Wait, really?
Just kidding.
Oh, okay.
This story is awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Like I was just joking with you guys. I thought you were gonna fall for that.
Yeah. Don't worry, everybody. Don't worry, everybody. Put those pitchforks down. We're good.
Yeah, we're good. Just because I despised Morris's narration doesn't mean I hate the story. No, this story is awesome.
Yeah,
It is awesome. The fact that Skarloey had the courage to continue the journey even though he was broken,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that sold the story for me. Just the fact that Skarloey volunteered to come out even though he's not in perfect working condition to go out,
Mm-hmm.
that pretty much, that pretty much is impressive to me. And my one of my favorite parts of the story is when Skarloey scolding the coaches severely. It's like you shouldn't have hurt your passengers. And I'm sorry, it's like on market day. Nah, never mind, forget it.
Basically, yeah, it's like you said, it's basically it's like you said, you're like, you shouldn't really have hurt your passengers. What are you trying to do? Get us sued?
Yeah, but and yeah, like wow, like he really put them in their places.
Pretty much, he pretty much did.
Yeah, he may be old, but he stands. But he's a no shit engine.
Pretty much.
Yeah, and yeah, I think you said everything I wanted to say about Old Faithful. I think the best part is the ending where he basically is sent to be mended, and basically he deserves it. I think he deserves it. What do you think?
He does. He does. I definitely do agree. He definitely does. Pretty much for all that he's been through and everything. Basically him being sent away to be mended. Like, it's definitely a good reward, right? Right over there for him.
I agree. I agree. And a little fun fact, guys, before I give my rating about Skarloey and Talifin being mended.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna see this in the next book, in the next Skarloey Railway book, but Skarloey's overhaul, where basically he gets mended,
Uh huh.
his overhaul went great, because unfortunately Tally Flynn, not so much. I think if I remember correctly, because I saw a little video on the Tally Flynn Railway's YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I believe he didn't steam very well when he came back from being mended. Yes, and so basically, they had to put him out of service again. And so basically, Sir Hayden, Edward Thomas, and Douglas being Duncan's basis,
Mm-hmm.
had to work the line until they could afford to send Talifin to be mended again.
Ah.
But we'll talk about that later. That's another story for another day. So for me, Old Faithful, I'm probably gonna have to give this story is a 6. Just kidding. This story is a 9.
Nice. Alrighty, a 9. Alrighty.
Just joking with you guys, just to make this
Yeah.
episode a little bit more.
Put those torches away. We're good.
Those torches away. We're just joking with you guys.
Yeah.
We know these stories are classic, so you don't worry about it.
Alrighty.
So, final scores. Let's do this.
Alrighty. So I think we did your final score for Ever the Blue Engine last time.
Yeah, your turn first.
All right. So for my final score, so I gave. All right. So to recap, I gave Skarloey Remembers an 8. I gave Sir Handel a 7. Peter Salmon and Freshman Lady a 9, and Old Faithful an 8 as well. So that brings my total score of a 32 out of 40, which means my final overall grade for the book is actually a solid B minus, a solid 8 out of 10, right over there.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Awesome.
actually, you know what? A B minus actually sums up this book pretty perfectly. Because like I said, I will be honest and everything. Although I do love the Skarloey Railway and everything, and these stories are still classic. Like, don't get me wrong and everything. Reading through this book again and everything, it does definitely have the feeling of like basically like first book syndrome, and that like that basically like while the first book is still good and there's still some good moments in them, the later books definitely do destroy this first story and definitely do improve upon on the Skarloey Railway much better in my opinion.
Yeah, it's basically the same thing with season 1 of Thomas and Friends, the show.
Pretty much, yeah. So
Where I basically don't see that I'm sure very few fans agree with me, but season 1 to me, it's kind of boring because it's basically an introductory season and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And since I've seen the story so many times, I kind of burnt down on season 1 except for one episode.
Yeah.
Or maybe 2 or 3.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about like Four Little Engines right here. That like Like I said, these stories are not too bad and everything. I mean, some of them are still memorable for what they are. It's just like I said, the later books definitely do improve upon on the stories and definitely expand more on the railway, much better.
Yeah, I agree. I
All right,
agree.
alrighty. So for you, you gave Skarloey Remembers an 8. You gave Sir Handel a 10. You gave Peter Sam and Refreshment Lady a 9 because that one I changed your mind on.
Yes, yep.
And for Old Fable, I think you also gave Old Fable a 9 too, right?
Yes, correct.
Alrighty. So your final score is a 36 out of 40, and I think I have a feeling. Alrighty, so your final score for Four Little Engines is an A! A solid A, a solid 9 out of 10 for you.
Yes.
So basically an A minus actually. So basically, folks, this is the first in a long while. Actually, I think the first time this happened was basically in the 3 railway engines, but this is the first where basically Barney and mine grades are actually different.
Yes, actually, yeah. You know what? Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So basically, my takeaway from the book was just basically simple, still good. Simple, still good. But to be honest, there are better books out. There are better Skarloey Railway series books out there. Where basically your final score for this book was just like as you said, a classic. Most of these stories you remember for good reasons and such.
Yeah, I remember all 4 of them.
Yeah.
I do remember all 4 of them, and I think all of them are great. Yeah, I'm a little bit burnt down on them because I've seen the episodes and I've read the stories so many times, except for Sir Handel. Sir Handel is the only one where I never get tired of it for good reason.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll be honest, this book kind of suffers from burnout sometimes.
Yeah. For that, I could definitely see where you're coming from with that.
So wow.
Yeah, look at that. I mean, like I said, look at this. Like I said, this is literally 1 point higher than the other.
Oh really?
Yeah, really. Because like I said, my rating was like an 80%. Yours is a 90%. So basically, mine is literally an 8 out of 10. Yours is basically a 9 out of 10.
Yeah. I would call that a landslide, but not really.
No, I mean not as much. No. But I mean it's close. I mean we can definitely say it's definitely neck and neck.
Yeah, I will say that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I wasn't expecting to give Four Little Engines an A. I was expecting it to go into this giving it like a solid B or a B minus, but
yeah,
an A? Wow. Like I'm impressed.
I mean, yeah, like I said, literally right on the 90 mark. I mean, okay, I'm a little curious. So, I want to check something. So, if I did not, okay, so all right, so let's say in an alternate timeline, I did not persuade your thoughts for Peter Sam and a Refreshment Lady. I believe your original score was an 8 for Peter Sam, right?
Yes, it was an 8. Okay. Correct.
So let's say if it was still 8. If it was still an 8 and the rest of the ratings, what would you have given this? You would given it at least a B plus. It basically would have been a 88%. So basically, you would have given it at least a B plus.
So we're basically would have been close, just only by minus 2 numbers, right?
Pretty much, yes.
Still not bad though.
No, not bad at all.
Compared to season 1, where basically we started off kind of decent.
Yeah, pretty much season 1. We pretty much. Well, actually, to be fair, season 1 was kind of like a roller coaster. Where like we really did not know what kind of grades we were gonna give to certain books and such.
Yeah, the one that kind of shocked me the most was Gordon the Big Engine.
Same here, honestly. Like honestly, it was both Gordon. It was also Troublesome Engines, actually. That also shocked me about the grade we ended up giving that book.
Now, which some people might immediately get out their pitchforks and attack us.
Yeah.
But it's all for
fun,
like
we always say and everything, but like we always say, if you definitely do enjoy these stories and enjoy these books for what they are, still enjoy them for what they are and everything.
Yeah, we're basically talking about them, discussing them just for fun, basically, because
pretty much.
Because we're both huge Thomas fans, and I'm a huge fan.
By the way, before we sign off, did you want to give what the Unlucky Tugs thought about Skarloey in that moment where basically he wanted to bring the passengers home?
Oh yeah, like I was gonna say he did it because he wanted to.
Pretty much, yeah.
Whereas Rhaenyra's did it in Gallant Old Engine, spoiler alert, because it was a necessity. Because if he didn't do it, the railway probably would have closed.
Yeah. That's actually a good point right over there. Yeah.
But yeah, that was Four Little Engines, guys. I will admit this one was something. This episode was something. I will say.
It was. Um, Honestly, it was a little bit of a surprise more on your end and such, because I was basically ready, like just like you. I was kind of ready for you to give this book also a solid B too, just like with me and such. It's basically like basically when I was sitting down here thinking long and hard about like what kind of ratings did I want to give to these books overall. I did had a feeling that like my rating was probably going to be someone like basically either a C plus or a B and such. And I basically like I said, with the grade I got for Four Little Engines, like I said, it does sum up my feeling with basically how I feel about this book overall. Because like I said, it's still a good book, and it's definitely a really good introduction to the Skarloey Railway. And basically, I will give the book this. It will definitely help Wilbur make make more Skarloey books later on down the road, and more better ones too, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Narrator wise, you guys can tell that I'm starting to
Yeah.
not like Morris at all. And it's I find it kind of interesting because I was praising him to death in the previous season, but now I'm kind of like trashing him.
Yeah, I think pretty much after this next story, I think both Barney and I will be finally glad that pretty much the rest of the series we'll just have to worry about Russian.
Yes, which I'm happy with because, like I said, I'll say it once and I'll say it again. Rushton demolishes every Railway series narrator.
Pretty much.
So yeah, guys, those four little engines. If you guys enjoyed this episode, don't forget to hit the like button. And if you guys want to see more episodes of the podcast, hit that subscribe button as well. Also, don't forget to check out our separate channels, All T+7 for me and Sequoia the Diesel, and Sequoia for Sequoia the Diesel, which will all those links will be left in the description below.
So yeah, guys, thank you so much for listening to the really useful podcast. Next time when we come back, we're gonna visit a little green caterpillar with red stripes, and basically get to the bottom of why he and a certain other engine was basically the final nail for Dolby's coffin.
Next week when we come back, we're gonna be taking a look at Percy the Small Engine. So anyways, guys, this has been Bonnie with
Sequoia the Diesel.
saying thank you for watching, and we'll be seeing you guys next week for Percy the Small Engine. Take care, guys, and we'll be seeing you guys real soon.
Bye bye.